It's my pleasure to introduce Jonathan Roberts, Chief Innovation Officer from Dotdash Meredith. Jonathan is Dotdash Meredith is one of the largest, or as Jonathan said last night, the largest publishers in the world. In his role, he leads digital transformation initiatives across the company's complex and extensive portfolio of iconic brands. As a key player in the evolving content economy, Jonathan brings valuable insights on how established media companies are navigating the relationship between traditional publishing and emerging AI technologies. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thanks, Heather. And great to see everybody. So Dotdash Meredith isn't a household name. The brands like Future are household names. So to ground you guys in what we're talking about here, Dotdash Meredith owns People, Food and Wine, Travel and Leisure, Better Homes and Gardens, Southern Living, Investopedia, Health Magazine, Parents Magazine, Very Well Health, The Spruce. Real simple, there are a ton of brands that we own and run. When I started with the company back in 2013, we owned one domain and it was called about.com. So it's been quite the journey from when it was 180 of us in a small office in Times Square to where we are now, which is a little under 4,000 people running the biggest publisher in the States and one of the biggest publishers in the world, both print and digital, which is wild. Before I was at Dotdash Meredith, I was a physicist. So I was a research scientist. I was a dark matter physicist. I worked on dark matter and cosmic rays for a decade. And one of the reasons I'm here, one of the reasons I'm still here 11 years into this journey with this company is because when you help 30 million people a day across the entire country and world, you can see everything about what people care about today. Because we're not reaching people with sports content or news content, so people aren't coming to us to be distracted, entertained. They're coming to us pretty much always because they're trying to do something, because there's something that's happening in their life in the real world that we are an answer or support or inspiration to. Through the journey of the company, through my journey at the company, I'm now the Chief Innovation Officer, but there was a couple of years in the middle where I ran our health and our finance business. I ran our finance business during the financial crash. I was then moved on to our health business during the global pandemic, which means that Neil, my boss, clearly either really, really hates me or really, really trusts me, because these are big, big problems that we see happening in front of us every day. Now, we're a large company, we're a large publisher, we're a profitable publisher, we're a growing publisher. These are not phrases you normally hear in 2024 and 2025. You're not going to hear like bullish, confident publishing stories because when people write about media, they like writing about the media that's having trouble, of which there's a lot. But we are in 2025 very bullish about the future of publishing. We were also the first publisher to do an OpenAI deal in the States. Now, a lot of the narrative about people taking deals with large foundational model AI companies is publishers are struggling, they're running on thin margins, they have to take the checks when they hand out, so don't blame them for taking the check. That's not us. We're large, we're profitable, we're growing, we do a little under $2 billion in revenue. Like, we don't need to take the check. This wasn't a short-term plan. This was a long-term plan to figure out, with a partner, what is the economic future of publishing and AI living together. Some AI companies truly do seem to believe that they can do this without publishers. I do not believe that is a long-term plan. OpenAI was open to having the conversation with us and then getting into the weeds, and like, none of these deals happen quickly, but when we cut the deal with them last May, it wasn't just payment for training. There were three pieces. So one piece, it's all in the press release, so it's nice and easy to talk about the structure. One piece is payment for training on our content, right? And this wasn't like, oh, you can train in the future. We knew they had already trained, right? As all these foundational models companies have done, they've hoovered up the content that's public on the internet, and they've trained their AI models on it. We do not believe that you get to take our content for free. This is not a controversial statement. Like, copyright exists, IP exists. It is not fair use to just hoover up content and regurgitate it. So there's a core piece of this where they acknowledge that, and there is payment for training. That's probably the least interesting piece of the deal. The second piece is that when our content as a publisher gets used by AI companies, it should be meaningfully cited. That one's interesting, I'm going to come back to that in a second. And then the third piece is real partnership, right? Co-development with OpenAI to figure out how do we make publishing better? How do we build things together that we could not build individually? How do we unlock and bring a premium into publishing that has honestly been missing for the last 10, 15, 20 years? So firstly, the citations piece. At the beginning of this entire AI revolution, you would ask ChatGPT a question, you'd get an answer, and it wouldn't tell you at all where that information came from. So I'm going to give you an analogy which I think has helped because it's slightly revolting and it sticks in your mind, right? So this one will stick with you. If you are getting a burger, right? And you go to a fast food restaurant, an unnamed fast food restaurant, and they hand you a burger, and you ask what's in it, and they say, it's probably meat. You're like, where did it come from? It's like, we are definitely not going to tell you where it came from. You're like, okay, it's late, I've had a couple of drinks, I'm going to eat this burger, and I'm going to regret it in the morning, I know this, but it may or may not be meat, it may do something to me that I might regret later. But it's very convenient. It's on every street corner, you get it very quickly that you're going to take the burger, it's going to be very straightforward. And it's probably relatively satisfying, but you're going to feel bad about yourself. On the other hand, you go to a steak restaurant and you get a beautiful cut of meat, they can name the cow, but this is a whole exercise, right? It's expensive, it takes you a bunch of time, you've got to make an effort to do it, you're going to get that piece of meat and it's going to take you a while to eat it. But you know exactly where it came from, you know the farm, you can name the cow. Publishing, good publishing, premium publishing is the steak. Very high quality, not honestly very convenient, right? The user has to do all the work, the user has to find the place, go to the place, get the piece, read the content. AI, in its first incarnation, is the unnamed, unsourced might be meat, right? There's a lot of words in there, they got mashed up and they got put back together and you don't know it's nutritious, and you certainly don't know where it came from because they're absolutely not going to tell you. And also what we've since found out is they actually stole the meat. They didn't even buy the meat. So they went around the back of somebody else's store, took the scraps out of the garbage, and then turned it back into a burger, right? All I am going to posit is that if publishers and AI companies work together, yeah, you can always go get the steak, that's totally fine. But you've got another option, which is you can get a black label burger that is definitely meat, where you can name the cow, and it's a delicious burger, and it constitutes from lots of named sources, or just one named source, and you can track that back to where it came from, and that's just a better burger. That's better for the consumer, it's better for you, it's better for the publishers, and there's an actual ecosystem then because these aren't two things in isolation, they're actually working together. So when AI companies cite their sources, they are therefore not working against publishers. They have to work with them, right? They need real-time access to quality content. The consumer knows where the content came from, and they can actually source it. Now, it's crazy to be in 2025 and say that if you're putting information into the world, the people reading it might want to know that it was sourced. Right? This is like AP-style book basics 101 that's been done for over 100 years by all journalists, but it's entertaining to watch tech companies try very quickly to learn how to be publishers and be bad at it. So all we're saying is we can help, right? We know how to help. There's a real value, a real use to this partnership because AI on its own or publishing on its own both have limitations. AI plus publishing together with a real collaboration can build something significantly better than either of those on their own. So that's what we believe to be true. There are a number of brand name hyperscaler tech companies that do not believe there is value in that partnership. OpenAI does. And so we've been working with them for the last year on how do we build things, how do we build a new information economy that provides value to both the AI companies and also to the publishers. Because we all need that to exist, right? If we don't figure that out, then the open web goes away. I would rather that not happen. I am bullish about the future of it, but we have to do a lot of work to figure it out because it's not been solved yet. The third piece is where we say, okay, we know how we can bring more value to the AI partners. On the flip side, how can we work with them to bring more value to publishers? Right? Now, publishing is a large language business. We have about 1 million to documents across our business. We see about 30 million people a day coming through trying to navigate those documents, all our content, all our articles, or all our editorial. And that's about 1 billion to 1.5 billion words of content, right? That's a lot of information, that's a lot of language. So, trivially, a large language model is useful for a large language business, right? This is not a complex or complex statement. A lot of what people talk about, which is correct, is how do you use AI for efficiency internally, right? We publish a lot of content, so helping people with the manual work of how that all goes is very helpful. We will never publish anything written by AI, ever, right? And the reason is because if it's created by AI, it is that unnamed meat, right? That unnamed bird, you don't know where it came from. It's also the average answer, right? Statistically, mathematically, large language models give you the average next word. There isn't a premium publisher in the world that got there by creating the average next word, right? Commodity information is fine, and you can ask a question of an AI bot and it's going to give you the commodity factual answer. That's fine, that's not a publisher. If you want opinion, fact, diversification of information, something inspiring, something that new, you're not looking for the average answer, you're looking for something inspiring, new, opinionated, right? These are things these systems on their own can't do. So we won't publish anything written by AI because we're not in the world of commodity fact or commodity information. We absolutely can use it internally to help with the manual labor of moving a lot of stuff around internally. Like, there's huge gains to be had there. But you cannot cut your way or create efficiency to growth, right? You can free up resources to do other things with it, but becoming more efficient is not going to grow the business. So the question is, what do you build that actually creates net new value? How do you unlock things that were not previously possible? So going into this whole phase of publishing, phase of tech, we're doing a completely separate project, which is interesting in parallel to this, which is the discussion around identity and targeting and advertising, right? We're an ad-supported business. We're a very large ad-supported business. We work with everybody. And we discovered a long time ago that retargeting people based on their cookies was a terrible idea. Not just because it's creepy as hell, which it is. Not just because being followed around by the thing you bought last week for the next 2 weeks is not particularly helpful. I love, actually, there's a really fun TikTok hack at the moment for people who are getting engaged or think that they should get engaged or would like their partner to propose to them so they would get engaged, is that they just go to Tiffany's and like repeatedly look at the same ring until it's on all of their banners, and then basically have their partner use their own laptop so they can see like very heavy-handed hints. The degree to which that tells us that the internet is broken, like, so we took the opposite and said, we actually don't believe there's any such thing as cookie targeting, right? Because an identity, a tag, an ID for you is useless until you have information on it. And that information is always yesterday's information, last week's information, 2 weeks ago information, and often it's bad, right? It's inferred, it's lookalike, it's interpreted, it's just not good, right? If instead you look and really appreciate the content somebody's reading right now, say, okay, what do I know about you because of what you're reading at this moment in time? That gives me a real-time signal, it gives me a privacy compliance signal, it also makes every single person on the internet reachable, whereas with cookies, it's just the people that everyone else can target. And that's no iPhones, no Macs, like you get rid of about 70 to 80% of the US population if you're reliant on an ID. And if you got rid of 70 to 80% of the US population by being reliant on an ID and everyone else has done the same thing, what do you think happens to that 20% that everyone can target? Well, it becomes really expensive, right? So if you're running ad campaigns on the web and your prices are going up and the rates are getting more expensive and you're finding it hard to get national reach, it's not because the internet got smaller. It's because the ad tech companies got worse at their jobs. Now for them, they take a percentage of price. Price, not dollars, price. Their costs scale with scale. So a small, expensive internet is a feature, not a bug, right? That is a better thing if you are running an ad exchange. But if you're a buyer or a seller, you would rather be able to run across the entire internet. You'd be able to want to unlock the whole premium. and you want to actually get more efficient pricing. So this is a very strange little thing, but if you can actually use the content to target, not the cookies, you can reach everybody, it's a better signal, and it outperforms cookies every time. We guarantee it, actually. We run it side by side with our identity targeting. We're huge so people can use our identity targeting. We're not saying don't do it, we're just saying do both. We've been guaranteeing this for 2 years. Again, we're a big company with billions of revenue. We've never had to pay out a guarantee, ever. It just works. And that was the performance we got when we were just looking at the content and we didn't have language models to help us look at the content, right? So we built a system called Decipher. We moved the architecture over onto the OpenAI architecture last September. It significantly improved over 30% of all of the content connections and understandings we have underneath it. We've used it to help predict what purchases or actions people are going to take next. Those predictive power are paying off and driving huge ROI. And we now run it across our entire architecture. It works great. Because we have found a way to unlock a premium inside premium publishing that wasn't there when it was using the standard ad technology of the internet, that's given us a massive growth driver through the last year. It continues into this year. We're using it for all of our partners. It also means that better content drives better outcomes, which means the incentive structure inside publishing is better. Because if you're working for identity that somebody else has, you just have an incentive to clickbait, right? You just want an eyeball that somebody else values. That's why we have the internet we deserve, not the internet we want. But if you can drive a premium from better content, you invest in better content. Now, by actually latching the value to the value of the content and by using language models to really deepen and enrich that understanding, that gives us a real premium to our own business. But the other challenge here is that, well, how does it scale, right? We're a big publisher, but we're not the whole web. Well, we've now built a system that allows us to take the understanding of our content, and we've used that to help bring those insights to the entire premium open web. Because now we can actually use this for a unified understanding of user intent, not by the identity and what they were doing last week, but by deeply understanding what the content they're reading right now tells us about the person. So that's exciting. We think there's a way to unlock a premium inside publishing that's been locked in there for years. And by partnering with an AI company to do this, this actually allows us to bring a premium back to premium publishing and make publishing a really fun growth business for the next 5-10 years. Thanks a lot.